Good morning, everyone. We've been here at Diamond Sutra Zendo since election day aftermath, and it's been a wonderful place to be during this rather cliffhanging couple of days. And while some of you were dancing in the streets, the residents and I were sitting on the deck in the sun having matcha, delicious whiskey, in honor of our president-elect and vice president-elect. So this morning, it gives me great pleasure to introduce someone many of you have known for a long time, Genno, Linda King, who is the designer of all of our materials, printed and digital, who with her husband Bill is responsible for our wonderful website, and most importantly, who has been a really sincere and dedicated Zen practitioner here at the Daibosatsu and New York Zendo temples since 1996. She and I have done innumerable sessions together, and I'm very happy to have her here to offer a Dharma talk this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start with something I think possibly we all feel. And that is simply, yay! I don't want to I have a very loud voice from all the chanting I've done over the years, so I don't want to break your speakers. The waiting and hoping and doubting and expectations these last few days was really difficult. But to quote Trevor Noah, this is 2020. Everything is difficult. Intellectually, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that there was going to be this period of waiting, but hope arose, and I thought, well, maybe there'll be a landslide. And no. So I found out, I live in an apartment. We went up to DBZ for a while, but then we came back. And I live in an apartment building that faces a lot of other houses. And we had very loud cheers during the cheering for the, first line people during the height of COVID. So I kept my ear out to hear, listening, because I don't watch the news and mainly. And I knew that my neighbors would tell me when and if it was over. And they did. They started screaming and banging on pots and honking their horns and going absolutely nuts. And I said, this is it. But somehow I didn't even really get it until last night. After the speeches, which were amazing and so inspiring and embracing all of us, until I saw the fireworks. And for some reason, I can't tell you why, I physically got it. It's over. This nightmare disease, disaster, and almost like the end of our democracy as we knew it, as I knew it. I'm 72. So I've lived a while and have seen a lot of stuff, but there's been nothing like this. Nothing. When I was asked to speak, I was, it's difficult to do this. Usually I'm asked to speak during session, and I have I asked to speak at the end, so I have 5 days to figure out what the hell I'm going to say. But this time, I knew that there would be something to say, but I didn't know what it was going to be. So I waited. I waited until yesterday, not until, Biden was announced, but starting in the morning, there were ideas that I had, but I wanted it to be about now, not about a few days ago. So the last time I spoke also at DBZ, I spoke about something Yamakawa Roshi said to me a year ago, or was it a century ago? He said, take good care of yourself. It's a hard direction, I felt. And this year it came in, it's something that really helped me. And I saw how everyone was taking care of each other in my building, in my neighborhood, all over the world. People were reaching out to take care of each other, how to take care of ourselves. Take care of yourself. And now we have an opportunity again, in another way, to take care. The last election, we went up to Sun Moon for the actual election day, because the last election, we were here, in front of the TV, and had a physical response to the news. My skin started to itch and burn, and I felt like I wanted to rip it off. So I thought, let's try to not repeat that and go somewhere where I don't have the temptation. So fortunately, Bill and I, my husband and I, have been renting a little house on the grounds of DBZ for about 20 years. And we went there. This election was very different for me also. I have never been terribly political, and I worked to get the vote out. I wrote 90 letters, and I like so many others, were much more involved than ever. We spent the election day, I voted by mail and Bill voted early here, but in person. And so we spent the day planting bulbs. If any of you have ever tried to plant anything at DBZ, you'll know that there is no earth, it's just rocks and tree roots. So it's quite an event to actually dig anything and plant anything, but we bought dirt and we managed. And it was a wonderful way to spend the day. That night, we sat with some of you at New York Zendo. And then we talked. all of us together after that sit, and many sat all through the night. I sat until about 10, I think. But when we talked, there were people that wanted to sort of like myself and my husband, sort of disconnect from the media circus. Some people wanted to be present for it, wanted to be involved. And other people were very much aware of the systemic problems that led to this kind of division and inequity that we are in the midst of. Some people were really excited about the turnout. Do you know that more people voted in this election than any election in the history of the United States? What's interesting also about this is how I found out, because I support and get emails from an organization known as the Karen Foundation. And it is in Lebanon. It helps Syrian refugees with schools and various other programs. They told me this. People all over the world are much more involved than we think in what we're doing here. We have someone who joins us in the morning from Australia to sit. He joins us to sit and talk. It was 1:30 in the morning when we got off the call this morning with him, with the Zoom meeting. So he stays up till 12:30, 1:30 to talk with us and sit with us. And he's talked to us many times about the effect that what we do here affects the world. It's not something I think of. We were all so focused on the outcome, during these last few days that we couldn't predict. We could hope, we could guess, the pundits were, but we didn't know. It was out of our control. The situation happens every single day, every single minute. But this time it was very clear. We're really faced with the suffering our clinging to our preferences causes us. When we could release our expectations, we could breathe. During COVID, as part of my practice, when COVID was not during COVID, during the high point of COVID in New York City. The high point of COVID is right now in this country. But anyway, I went out and took pictures. It was the spring. So I took pictures of all these beautiful flowers and posted them. I'm not a real social media person. But I did that. I could breathe just for that moment of accepting what is outside of one's preferences. During this election period, I guess election day, I must have been freaking out about something, I don't remember. And my husband said, well, that's because of your preferences. And I thought, yes, that's correct. And someone else said, I was talking about, I don't know what to talk about. And they said, you should talk about preferences. So I began to think about preferences in a different sort of way than I had before. Who among us here or anywhere didn't have any preferences on election day or night or subsequent days? So I began to think about this, and like we all have been, we have the longest session in the history of Zen here. And digging in day by day, by hour, by minute, to all the things we may have said, oh, I know that. Oh, I'm good. No more needs to be said or dealt with on that subject. So as it happened, or Ada Roshi used to say, there's no coincidences, I started to revisit, or actually for the first time, really get into this book, which is the Diamond Sutra, translated in comments by Red Pine, which is amazing. And, I've never really studied. When I first started to practice, Ada Roshi, I mean, I don't know whether he said this, but certainly I got the impression that we should just sit. We should not read. We should not study. We should just sit. The way I describe it to myself is sit down, shut up, and see what happens. So that was my practice. I have a friend, a dear friend who started out as a Theravada practitioner. And she says to me, oh, what do you think of the bloody? And I am like, nah. Because I really haven't studied. But I always loved hearing, reading the Diamond Sutra during our sessions. And we have many of our sessions at the Diamond Temple. And the Diamond Sutra has really been the teaching that I do have in my heart. So I bought this book a while ago, and I don't know, just started reading it, got distracted, how it is. The Buddha tells us over and over again in the Diamond Sutra about the illusion of a separated individuality, the delusion, the misunderstanding, that all composite things, that's all of us, everything else, are connected. They can't be separated. And because there is no specific self-existent form, we call that shunyata, or emptiness. There's and so I'm going to read you a quote. The Buddha taught the doctrine of emptiness, in which all entities are seen as dependent in time or space or other entities, and thus empty of any nature of their own, and hence not in themselves or of themselves, real. Okay. I also happen to be reading Carlo Rovelli, who is a theoretical physicist. And I love theoretical physics because it proves either mathematically or actually physically the teachings that we follow. The first book, well, we didn't read it. A member of our little group that meets every morning suggested reading this. And the first book, I get books from the library. Some of them are audiobooks, some of them are Kindle books. So the first book that I got from Carlo Rovelli was an audiobook called Reality is Not What You Think It Is. Great title, right? So, you know, I've heard about Einstein's theory of relativity since I was a child, but the word relativity, everything is related. Nothing has a separated existence. In fact, there is no specific existence as such at all, just a set of conditions that appear at a time and location based on cause and effect. Sound familiar? Every morning service we chant, form is no other than shunyata. It's emptiness. Emptiness is no other than form, not nothing, not void, but everything together. The second part of that is what I'm thinking about now. The second part, not form is emptiness, but emptiness is form. The Buddha also tells us in the Diamond Sutra, which I've always been sort of interested in because it's just like one little tiny bit in what we chant about not clinging to the raft of Dharma. In this red pine, I'll read you one more quote. The Buddha urges us to let go of our perceptions of reality, but also to let go of our perceptions of unreality. That is clinging to emptiness. This is what I like to do. But our teaching is called the middle path, not clinging to either side, form or emptiness, because they're not two. So we really can't say in the world of the 10,000 things, oh, I have no preferences. Or even someday, I hope to have no preferences. How will we choose what to get at the supermarket, which cereal to buy? Much less who we want to be the leader of our country. We did choose. Our preferences only cause us suffering when we cling to them. When we cannot adapt to the change of circumstances and act accordingly. So I'm thinking now that the change of government will change everything, but what can I do? This has been the year of what next? But the next year after the inauguration can be the year of what next? So much work to be done. And the question comes up to me, how can I help? How can I help heal what has been harmed? The country and the families that have been harmed by this unbelievable division, the people that have been harmed by injustice, the planet has been harmed by greed. After all, living in a kinder, healthier, more equitable world is my preference. Thank you for listening to all I've been thinking about and feeling. I look forward to hearing what you are thinking and feeling. Thank you.
I'd like to offer another word for what I think you are meaning by preferences. When you take it out of the individual separate selfhood mentality, I think what we are feeling is let's look at it from the plant world perspective. Let's use the word tropism. As you know, plants move toward the sun. The sun provides everything for us. When we have a sense of our tropism, moving toward the good, moving toward what we know from within, is the sun, is the love, is the care, is the vow, then of course we act accordingly. Thank you so much, Genno, for bringing your beautiful spirit to your talk and your reflections and to everyone. I think it's such an important time for us as a Sangha, for us as a country, and for us as a world. And let us now go to our great vows for all. That's where it all comes from and leads to, right here, right now, this vow.